Junkyard.
Just like that, we're live and on the air. All right.
Alrighty. Welcome to the Beyond the Junkyard podcast. It wouldn't be a show without some technical difficulties.
Bob weave into the song and I'll go. It didn't work. I think we still have some technical difficulties going on here. In the hail is going on to start the show. I don't know if anybody can see me or not. I may have to refresh my screen, but gentlemen, this is live television. This is what this is. Well, this is not great. I'm here. Nice for you all to join us. I'll take care of the housekeeping items, and I guess I'll have to refresh this so we miss. But welcome on in. You're on the Junkyard. I am the co-host, Kdawg. Junkyard James is, well, he's MIA. Technical difficulties. Had some nasty storms over here in North Carolina, so maybe that's the issue. I'll try to refresh my screen. I guess we'll catch.
Okay. Let's try this again. I apologize if you're watching this and you're watching the show implode on itself. Welcome to the Beyond the Junkyard podcast. I am your host, Jay Nice, and with me is my guy, Kdawg. How's it going, my friend?
Listen, we're only supposed to have one person here that has internet issues, and it's supposed to be me because I'm out in the middle of nowhere. Evidently, City Boy over here still has internet problems. I don't get it. I tried to keep the show afloat for about a minute, and then I decided to refresh. I wasn't ready for that. I don't like how you put me on the spot like that. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is how we do it. Might need a production manager after this, though. This is fudged up.
We need some better internet out here.
I don't know what's worse, our internet issues or Trump's security team. I don't know.
That's a good one.
Well, anyway.
Welcome to the Beyond the Junkyard podcast. Oh, my goodness. You know what the Wi-Fi needs, my friend? It needs some W.
It needs some W. You know, I think if we had some W, then we would be taking some W's and actually having a flawless show for once without no internet problems.
Yes, y'all go to w.gg and use the code Beyond the Yard in the chat there, and not in the chat, in the discount code box, and you can save 10% off of your order. Thank you to W. I will be drinking this at some point in the show. I'm just not thirsty yet. Let's get to business before my internet blows up again. You said last week, my friend, that you were going to have some Forbidden Door prediction set up. Do you have those records? Mm-hmm.
Did I actually say that?
We're gonna have to watch the tape, but I believe you did. Threw you on the spot there, my friend.
Just kidding. I did them. We have them. They are live. We are good. I didn't have the calculations. Good, bad news.
Oh, Lord.
The bad news is Neither one of us did better than the other.
Oh, so we tied.
We tied. Other bad news is we didn't go perfect.
Yeah.
The good news is we both went 12-1. 12-1. Any guesses as to what match I got wrong and which match you got wrong?
Pretty sure I got the Chris Jericho match wrong.
Not. Good. There were 3 matches on here that I thought I got wrong, but I wrote down the predictions here, and I guess that I was leaning towards a winner, but then I said, no, I'm going to go with this so-and-so. So I almost could have had 4 losses, but I instead had only had 1. The match that you got wrong was Swerve and Ospreay. You picked Mr. Will the Thrill. And I, conveniently enough, got the other world title match wrong. I picked Moxley to go over against Naito, and that did not happen. So there you go.
All right, 12-1.
With that being said, the 2024 records for our predictions are as follows. JYJ is a strong 39-9.
Nice.
39-9. Yours truly, not gonna brag. 45-3. We'll move on. Listen, you know,
you went on that stretch there where you didn't get a single damn episode or match wrong for like 3 straight pay-per-views.
You came out for Forbidden Door, so now I got to keep on my A game for All In London, which is coming up here in the next month and a half. So that'll be fun. We are. You're not far behind. You really aren't. I just got to keep the streak of hopefully getting a bunch of these right. But we'll see.
And as we now move into some content, we got a good show for you. We're gonna talk our WWE question of the week, and I didn't give you this question because I wanted your live, raw opinion on this topic. We're going to recap AEW's 250th episode of Dynamite. We're how many episodes away from beating Monday Nitro? Oh, we lost it.
I believe we are 36, 37.
We're getting there, and we're one step closer. We're going to talk about the show, the highs, the lows, the bad, the good, the ugly, everything in between. That's our main topic. And then I didn't mention this to you either because, again, I wanted your raw opinions. DJ Wavy D, our good friend. I don't know if you looked in the Discord, but I asked for some questions for a Q&A at the end of the show, and he gave us some questions. Now, if you want to pull up Discord and look at them, to prepare in 10 minutes before we get to them, you can, but they're in the Discord, and that is how you can ask us questions, but it's also how you can participate in Technical Thursday. And let me pull up the Discord again for us. Here we go. Last week's numbers. Moose pulled the upset over Joe Hendry. Moose came in as the 8th seed on the TNA bracket, beat the 1 seed. Eric Young beat Hammerstone. There was a tie between Josh Alexander and Mustafa Ali, and so I just chose the higher seed, would being Josh Alexander. He moves on, and Matt Cardona beats the wrongly spelled Sami Callihan to move to the final 4 of the TNA bracket.
Because of the fact you spelled his name wrong and nobody knew who that was.
That's probably the case. This week, though, you can go ahead and see we've got some votes in here. Join the Discord. It's that link on the bottom of the screen. I'll put it in the chat here in just one moment. But we got the New Japan rosters. Shota Umino versus Tomohiro Ishii. We got David Finlay against Gabe Kidd. Tetsuya Naito against Hiromu Takahashi. And Zack Sabre Jr. against Ren Narita. That's this week's matchup. You join the Discord and you can join all of this. You can be a part of a community of WWE fans, AEW fans, wrestling fans, all of that. So join the Discord. Again, I will put the invite link in the chat here. Let me do that before we move on. Anything you want to say about the Discord, my friend? Before we
Definitely join it. I need to be a better presence in it. I just do things, but in there, it's a great way to interact with fellow wrestling fans. Got a ton of different tabs that you can join, or not just join, but look into, not only about WWE stuff, AEW stuff, NXT stuff, just everyday things, memes, sports, just about anything and everything that you guys want to talk about. There are tabs for it, so it's a great way to connect with people, not just on a wrestling perspective, but it's a super cool place for fellow wrestling fans, but also can collaborate over into other things as well. So go to join if you will, survive if we let you. It's an old Taz saying, you're welcome. I just think it's a really cool place for all of us to kind of and just express our thought. Is we are a First Amendment right advocates over here, so anything that anybody wants to say about anything and whomever, we're there for it in the Discord. So which means beware of what you say. You may get offended of what people say about your favorite wrestler. Anyways, join the Discord. It's fun. Cool place to be. Yeah.
All right, so let's jump into our WWE question of the week. Because we are a WWE shop affiliate, that affiliate link is in the description below. I just want to give us, we talk a lot of AEW on the show, so I love to be able to just spend a little bit of time talking about Big Brother. And let's talk about the WWE, and in particular, let's talk about the WWE Champion, Cody Rhodes. He won the title at WrestleMania this year. And I don't think he's defended it since then. Now, I could be wrong. I don't really pay attention to WWE. How would you rate his championship reign as it currently stands?
I think the best word to use is lackluster. Problem with these white meat baby faces like Cody Rhodes, like Daniel Bryan, some before them, is the chase is usually much better than the actual title reign. Ultimate Warrior, the chase is better than the actual title reign itself. And that's where the problem lies into, is when you get the title off of a hot heel that Roman Reigns was, put it on such a guy that had a lot of support and the crowd feverishly behind him, is when he ultimately wins the title belt, the ultimate question just becomes, what now? How do we continue the momentum? How do we continue the push to where people still are behind him? People are all, but it's just a matter of how do we remember the title reign. Right now, it's just luster. To me, I know he's going to be defending the title in a few weeks at SummerSlam against Solo Sikoa. That doesn't do it for me. That when I'm looking to say, all right, what makes me want to watch Solo and Cody, it's not it. But I think Cody's title reign is going to be pretty long, so hopefully it's just a not so great start, but it starts speeding up and gets better over time. We'll see. But as of right now, that's what I would say about his championship reign, is just lackluster.
Well, apparently I was wrong, and I can remember now. I think he's defended it against AJ Styles.
Yeah.
Is that it? I don't know. Again, I don't really pay it. I don't.
Could be wrong.
But regardless, the championship reign has been absolutely just garbage, in my opinion. And I'll say it this way: you have multiple storylines on lower tier championships that are more prevalent than the world champion. Nothing Cody does is original. We've seen it all before. It's the same script with a different character. And it's boring. And then the fact that they released that WWE documentary about WrestleMania where they basically said, because the fans complained, that's the only reason we gave the belt to Cody. Plus the dirt sheet saying that they really don't have a plan for Cody until Royal Rumble or WrestleMania next year. They didn't want the belt on Cody, and you can tell that they didn't want the belt on Cody. It was one of those obligatory, he's hot, he's over with the fans, and they're going to riot if we don't give him the belt, so they made a last-second adjustment. I'm not a fan of the reign. I think it's boring. And if it doesn't, if he doesn't get a good story, if he doesn't get a good push, whenever he loses the belt, I'm assuming it might be sometime in the near future. I have a feeling that they'll want John Cena to go out on top with the belt. We still got a year to plan for that, but I don't get the title reign. I don't like it. His brother's contract ends with AEW, so pretty soon, if Cody doesn't get a good push, you'll see him in the Stardust paint, tag teaming with his brother again. But anyways, let's move on to AEW content. Again, check the link in the description to WWE Shop. You buy your merch with our link. You help the podcast. We get a little bit of a commission off of the sales using that link. But anyway, let's move on to the main topic. AEW held their 250th episode of AEW Dynamite. And before we get to the opener, let's talk about the second half of the show. And the reason I say the second half of the show is because the first half of the show was the opening match. So I want to dedicate its own separate time for the opening match, and then you have some heavy thoughts on that opening match. But let's talk about the rest of the show first. What were some highs, some lows, some in-between moments for you? And what was your overall opinion of episode 250?
I thought the show was good. It kind of gave us the nostalgic feeling of AEW and the aspect of nobody does wrestling better than them. And then sprinkled in some of the top stars with Bucks and Okada, Mercedes, Jack Perry, the Acclaimed. Sprinkled them in there. So it gave us the old school nostalgic feeling from a wrestling perspective. Helped us build towards next week, which is Blood and Guts, and the Okada segment with the Bucks and Mercedes. That was funny. It seems like Okada's got a little bit of the hots for Mercedes there. Mariah May doing this entire Toni Storm lookalike, and the promo she delivered last night I thought was really strong. It was really good. So yeah, I thought the second half of the show was pretty good, pretty solid. The first, like you said, the first hour was dedicated really to just one match, so definitely needed to do time to do some promos and some vignettes and some things to kind of build towards not only next week for Blood, but a month and a half away from Wembley, it all in London. So I think overall the show did pretty well. As far as I know, they've only announced maybe 1 or 2 things for Blood and Guts next week. Minoru Suzuki versus Jericho, I believe, for the FTW title with Brian Keith and Big Bill Bandit ringside. And, of course, we got the Blood and Guts match, and that'll probably also take up, if not an entire, maybe 45 minutes of that. So next week should be interesting. Kind of concerned when it attendance with the show. We'll see how that factors on the show. But overall, yeah, I thought AEW Dynamite last night, 250, was really good. Staying a little bit corrected, we're at 38 episodes away from tying Nitro, 39 to pass it. So I wonder if we're going to have AEW Dynamite 289 just to poke fun of the fact that it's Nitro. I think it would be funny.
Yeah, of course they put Blood and Guts on a week where we can't watch the show live because we'll be watching Creed play on their final four. So, but yeah, to answer, Wavy D asked us in the Discord earlier this week, like, what's the point of Mariah May? Why'd she make the turn? And I think she gave a good answer as to why she turned on Toni Storm. It was basically the answer I gave him. This was just one big setup for her to get and infiltrate Toni Storm. If you know anything about her indie character, and I'm assuming a lot of people don't, this was her indie character. It's all about Mariah, and she's going to do whatever it takes to get herself to the front of the line, even if that means faking to be the protege of the champion to get a championship match. And so I loved her segment. The similarities between Toni Storm and Mariah May, like, they look almost absolutely identical.
It's scary. It's scary.
And I thought that was a good segment of the show. I think obviously the Jericho segment kind of spoiled it a little bit for me. I bet you complain about it all the time. I'm not a big fan of it, but Minoru Suzuki coming out was cool. I like that they're actually going to put a bow on Minoru Suzuki, declining Jericho's invitation to tag with them at Forbidden Door. And I thought the Okada match itself was actually pretty good. I'm not a fan of them ending that match in a DQ, though I understand why they did to push forward for Blood and Guts next week. And it looks like Darby Allin is going to be the 5th member of Team AEW. The Acclaim joined Team AEW. So obviously we're going to get our isolated spots with the Bucks and the Acclaimed. I guess Darby Allin may go after, I have no idea. I think Mark Briscoe will go after Jack Perry, and Swerve and Hangman will fight. So I guess it's Okada and Darby Allin will kind of have their spot. Is that going to be an all-in match, Okada versus Darby for the belt? Who knows? So it's going to be an interesting show next week that we won't be able to watch live. But let's talk about this 60-minute introductory match. And I think you said on the show last week that this is what you feared they were going to do. So I want to let you have the floor and use this as a time to vent about this match. You said you have some strong thoughts about it, so I'll let you have as much time as you need.
I thought the match itself was great. I don't think that we or anybody thought that an MJF well-off match would not be great. It was fantastic. Start to finish. Even at the very end of it, guys were still doing the quick chain moves and counters and all that stuff. And they mentioned it a few times on the broadcast just how hot and humid that arena was. You could see the sweat on each guy and it pouring onto the mat. Like I said, they kept their stamina. They kept their cool. They did great. that thing over as much as I can because I don't understand why in the hell we did what we did last night. Little Rock, Arkansas did not deserve to see a 60-minute time limit draw.
Why are you hating on Little Rock?
With a half-full crowd where they could have saved that entire match for Wembley Stadium in front of 50,000 people. I could care less if Daniel Garcia factors into this at all or not. The fact is that match should have not happened until All in London. I think it's a cheap way for them to get the belt off of Ospreay for a month and then just to get it back onto him so he can get the hometown pop. I don't love that. They literally did. I mean, they could have just literally given us 5 minutes of a spoiler or a tease for the match, and then we ended that in disqualification where MJF leaves. So he starts leaving, and Ospreay and him fight throughout the crowd, and it just ends up in a count out. There's ways to get out of that, and I could care less of what the advertisement says. And AEW usually, goes through with their advertisements, and that's fantastic and fun and dandy and whatever. You got your biggest pay-per-view of the year coming up, and even if you re-announce this match and it's a steel cage match or whatever, that we might be able to still sell some tickets and make it a big match. But I'm such a huge proponent of, if you're going to give me a match, I don't want to see it, TV before the pay-per-view you're building it for. House shows are a different story. I get it. I still don't love it, but I get it. At least with house shows, it's not televised, so people who are watching in the crowd, they're going to sit, and then you're not going to any of these shows leading up to the pay-per-view. You're going to see them on pay-per-view. But the fact that we got a 60-minute match, 58-minute and 58-second match with MJF going over, I just severely question the booking on that. I don't get it. Matches for the title at all. I'm no longer excited for it. Yeah, I know they can go and they're probably a great match, but I'm going to guess that maybe half, if not 3/4 of the match again is going to be the same type of match we just saw, and that burns me out. I don't love that. And like I said, I could care less if Garcia is going to be involved in this, make it a triple threat. That doesn't do nothing for me. I just don't understand why they did what they did last night. Like I said, great match. Guys are great talents. Putting that match over as I can, because from a pure match standpoint, it was phenomenal. It was great. Again, we did not need to do that on free television this night whatsoever.
So let me play devil's advocate.
Please do.
Because the idea, I think, if I read the dirt sheets right, was that they announced this match and they made the match seem like a big spectacle, not only because it's episode 250, but because we're coming towards the end of July. And that exclusive window with Warner Bros. Is about to end. And from what Tony Khan has been predicting, they're this close to getting a TV deal done. And so let's have this big show, not Paul White, but let's have this big show prove to everyone that AEW is legitimate. It was 7th on all of TV, both cable and network television, last night, behind WNBA, 3 different broadcasts of the Republican convention. So, there was some big competition up against it. And I know you can say the WNBA isn't, but Caitlin Clark has revitalized that brand. Every Indiana Fever game gets at least 1.5 million people watching it. This week's episode, last night's game got almost 2 million people watching it, and we grew an audience. this was all to set up, hey, we can sell TV to Warner Bros. And I get your frustration with it going as long as it did. But you can say that Dynamite probably just had the greatest match in the history of AEW Dynamite on episode 250. I can't think of another match on Dynamite that was that captivating. Can you?
Easily. Bryan Danielson and Kenny Omega Grand Slam 2021.
Man, I just think this match was better. Well, like Will Ospreay can go. MJF can go. There were a lot of
not debating that whatsoever. They absolutely can.
But there are people in the fan base that questioned if MJF could go with Will Ospreay, and he proved that he can hang with the best. And this was just a showcase of what AEW is. And I understand that, yeah, they're going to go to Wembley and they're probably going to run the match again, and Ospreay's going to have the home bump, but this isn't going to be a 60-minute match at Wembley. It'll probably be a 30-minute match. And in the storyline sense, Will Ospreay has lost his last 2 matches because of his fear of using the Tiger Driver 91. So what is he going to bring back at Wembley? I think he brings back the Tiger Driver. And that's how he beats MJF. And so this is going to be the story leading in. I think AEW is really good at building stories for pay-per-views. And if you can kill 2 birds with 1 stone by giving us a really good match on Dynamite and building up a story that leads to an absolute classic at a pay-per-view, which I think they'll have, I think it's a win-win, especially if it gives you a better TV deal, especially if you can go to Warner Brothers and say, hey, remember that 250th episode? We gained 110,000 fans from the week prior because we advertised this match. I think that says a lot. And I think it helps with the TV deal. It helps with all of the overall logistics. And it's just a big match. And I know the crowd wasn't large, and it is Little Rock, Arkansas. I mean, the best thing they got was, I don't even know, Darren McFadden from 20 years ago.
Sure, let's go with that.
Like they don't have a lot of history in Arkansas with any sports programs. But I don't know. I don't think it's as bad as everyone's making it out to be, especially when AEW presents itself as we're the best wrestle. And that's what they gave us, a classic wrestling match on Dynamite. Do I think it should have gone 59 minutes and 58 seconds? I don't think it had to. But I don't think it was necessarily a bad thing that it did. They're still going to put on a really great match. And a lot of the hardcore fans will be okay if MJF and Will Ospreay fought 60 minutes every single week up until Wembley Stadium and then fought 60 minutes at Wembley Stadium. They would enjoy every single time. Now, there are those fans, the more casual audience, that will get tired of it. But Tony Khan says it. He said it before. He'll say it again. He doesn't really book for the casual audience. He books for what he calls the sickos. And so that's what it was. Just a solid wrestling match. 30 minutes commercial free. 30 minutes with some picture-in-picture. And I tweeted this last night. I think it was the greatest match on Dynamite in the 250 episodes that they've had. And there was a lot of people that said the same exact thing. So I think the overall positivity around the match is good. And MJF gets the title. It's not a world title. I think him and Moxley are the only people to hold the world title and that belt. And now we get Will's babyface push towards Wembley Stadium. And that pop he's going to get at Wembley Stadium is going to be great. So I'm excited for it. I know you probably aren't, but yeah, that's devil's advocate for you.
I'm saying it's unnecessary. He's already going to get that pop. It doesn't matter. He's already going to get it. He already had a babyface push going into it. Why are we going to have a guy hold a belt for a month and then give it back to him? That's to me, that is bashful booking just to garner a rating and a pop, and that's where this match kind of resembles a little bit of Nitro, where they're going to give away something for free and not trying to draw a big dime when it comes to the pay-per-view buy. And they're still going to get a great pay-per-view buy, no doubt. But, year over year, you got to look at the fact that we went from 80,000 to 55,000 maybe. That's a little bit of a drop. Get it.
But are they going to advertise MJF versus Ospreay as the main attraction? Because it seems like the main attraction is going to be Tony Storm and Mariah May, or Danielson and Swerve. So they can package all three and still get a really good buy.
For certain, that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that they're not going to get a really good buy. I just think that you tease the match, finish in disqualification, finish it in the count out. Let's savor the fans wanting more. Build up a better storyline. We don't need to drop the belt. Just the pop is going to remain the same, because if Ospreay beats MJF at Wembley Stadium, whether or not MJF is the international champion or Ospreay is the international champion, it's still going to get a great pop for the fact that the hometown guy wins, and MJF doesn't lose very much in AEW. Yeah, he lost at World's End, but he had pretty much in the ROH World Tag Team titles, but before then, pretty much an undefeated streak of almost a year. So him losing matches is not common. So to see, if you're going to build up this heel character again, he can do a great job of doing that. Maybe he can cost Ospreay a match to kind of build up the heat. Maybe Ospreay costs MJF a match. There's ways to go around it without having to do this quick transition of a 1-month title reign and then Ospreay get it back at Wembley. I'm just not a fan of it. I'm really not.
And I think we also have to throw in the fact that MJF had to use the diamond ring to beat Ospreay. So where does that play into the factor of the story? The ref bump happens, diamond rings used and thrown all the way across the ring. Ospreay wins if he doesn't get hit. He kicks out if he doesn't get hit with the diamond ring, one would assume. And so I don't know. I feel like AEW gave the fans what they promised to give the fans. And that's just really good wrestling every Wednesday and every Saturday and occasionally on a Sunday. Tony Khan isn't going to book for long-term storytelling for the most part. He's going to give you the dream match right now, and then he'll figure out a way to tell the story afterwards. And sometimes it gets him in trouble, like when we played Hot Potato with the TNT belt. That was not great. I don't think this becomes that. I think we can tell the story. What is more meaningful in Wembley Stadium? Yeah, Will Ospreay's going to get the pop either way. But is it bigger that he retains the belt, or is it bigger that he wins the belt back? There's some form of redemption arc with him having to win the belt back. There's something that he's chasing in his hometown crowd, and he wants to make his hometown fans happy, and he has to win that belt back. I don't know. If you think about any story, usually at some part right before the big final battle scene, the heel wins a couple battles. And so this is just one battle that MJF gets a win on. And I think the payoff will be better now that Ospreay is not the champion than it would be if Ospreay just came in there and beat MJF. Because Ospreay doesn't lose a whole lot either. His first loss came to Swerve. So now Ospreay's on a losing streak. So now you play the redemption arc. and he has
Not
to
really,
start
because
winning.
he did beat Daniel Garcia the Wednesday after Forbidden Door. So he's lost 2 of his last 4. Maybe it's a slump, I guess, if you want to call it that. But I don't know. I fear this is probably going to be a trilogy in a month and a half, almost close to 2 month span. Like, they have this match, they'll have the All-In match. They set it up for a trilogy at All Out for, like I said, steel cage ladder match, something like that. Not totally against it. I don't know. The way that they booked MJF since he's come back, I don't necessarily totally blame Tony Khan for it, but there is it's off. Yeah, he's a great heel, but the way we did it so quickly after coming back, when he still has histories with some guys that he could still do first, get that out of the way, and then let's transition him back to a heel. Doing it the way they did it, so far he's been booked really weird since coming back.
And so DJ Wavy D asked a question about this episode that we'll move it up ahead of the Q&A. But we look at the quarter hours. And now I subscribe to WrestleNomics on Patreon, so I get these before that he posts them on to the public. The first segment, the first 15-minute segment, they started at 871,000 fans. Throughout the first 60 minutes, they go from 871 to the end of the match. They're at 841,000, so just a little drop. But then immediately after the match, the Young Bucks hit their promo, and they plummet down to from 841 to 769. By the time Mercedes Moné and Nyla Rose match basically finishes, they are I'm sorry. Let me back up. After the match, Jericho hits his promo, and this is why I say Jericho's whole thing. They go from 841. Jericho goes on the screen, and they're now down to 769. He's a ratings killer. And then 734 for them at the end of the Monet match to 701 at the start of the Swerve match. And then the overrun, they're at 685,000. So they lose about 180,000 fans from start to finish of the show. Is that an issue? Or is that just common with AEW?
Sure, it's common with most wrestling shows. I would like to see what the quarter-by-quarter rating is on Raw, SmackDown, Collision. I'm sure there's ebbs and flows to every show, dipping, going up, all that good stuff. But when you start with your main event, really, as your first match, and then you entertain the audience for about 60 minutes, maybe they either are like, all right, that's what I wanted to watch. I'm tuning out. Could be a reason, but I would beg to differ that most quarterly ratings ebbs and flows, goes up, goes down. So yeah, that's my take on that.
Yeah, I don't think it's that big of a deal. Again, Jericho's the ratings killer. After Jericho, ratings kind of stabled over. They dropped a little bit afterwards, but the most of the drop happens between the time of the ending of the first match and then the time that Jericho's done with his thing. Which, come on, Tony, we got to pull him off of TV for a little bit if you want ratings to be good. If you wanted to know the quarter hours of a Monday Night Raw, I got one for the July 8th episode of Raw. They started 193 at 8 o'clock. By 9 o'clock, they're at 1.74 million. Judgment Day shows back up at the 9 o'clock hour, so they're back up to 2 million. By the end of the show, they're at 1.5 million when Zoe Stark is on TV. So she's obviously the ratings killer on Raw. But yeah, it's just a normal ebb and flow of a show. I don't think it's that big of a deal that they lost 180,000 fans from 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock. Not a lot of people watch TV that late at night, or, maybe something popped up, or they were watching something else. Prime time.
Side note, I think that's very telling. Don't mean to cut you off. I think that's very telling how the Raw rate bumped up basically 400,000 from 8 to 9, and kind of just back down a little bit. I think the reason for that is most people want to watch Raw at 9 to 11, 9 to whatever their usual time slot usually was. And I know that we've been at 3 hours for 10 years now. Crazy to think that, but I just think most people don't care about the 8 o'clock hour. Most people maybe just can't watch it at 8. So like, it's 9 to 11 for me. I'm going to do that. So maybe that's probably me just overthinking that a little bit, but that's just kind of me going on that little bit of a tangent for a minute. But yeah.
So
that ebbs and flows happen.
This was AEW's highest P2 rating since April 10th, 2024. For quarter 3 of this year, the average is 725,000 fans. Quarter 3 of last year at this time was 885 fans, so an 18% drop in viewership. But from this week, from the last 4 weeks, they're up 24%. So viewership's on the rise. According to where they're at, attendance is on the rise. I think AEW is good, and I think you'll see attendance get higher and ratings get better once the TV deal is finalized. But we talk about Q&A. Let's get to some of these Q&A questions that DJ Wavy D has asked us. Look, I asked everyone in the Discord to give me some questions, and not many questions were given, but we're going to start with an easy one. Name your top 3 Kool-Aid flavors.
Oh man, I was not expecting that question whatsoever. Wow. So, call me weird. I'm gonna base it off of the the packet, put it in the water, and make your Kool-Aid. I'm going off of those little bottles that you would get in the 6-pack.
The jammers?
Not the jammers. Maybe that's what it is. The little bottle, not the juice pouches, but the actual, plastic little bottles. You peel off the cap of them. I used to down those. Nobody's business. And the berry, blue, the berry, the grape, and the cherry. Those are my 3, for sure.
So, in my household growing up, when I drank Kool-Aid, we didn't have flavors. We had colors. So I don't know the flavors of these.
It's true. Yeah. Blue, red, and purple. Blue, red, and purple for me.
So I was going to say the same. Number 1 was purple. I love the grape. Artificial grape flavoring is great, but I like the purple. I like the red. And then I actually liked orange. The orange Kool-Aid was actually pretty good. The mixed berry or the blue was good as well. But red or purple were probably the biggest ones in my household. And as a resident white man, we make Kool-Aid wrong, y'all. You need to put about half a container of sugar in your Kool-Aid, or else it doesn't taste right. So yeah,
Why you just get the already made one? Make it a lot easier on yourself. Makes it 10 times easier.
If you don't get diabetes drinking your Kool-Aid, then you're doing it wrong.
Are you really drinking Kool-Aid? That's right. Before we move on, pull up the comment about the April 10th episode real quick in the chat there. Just some the third comment from the bottom. There it is. A little wrestling nerd here for you. So it's funny how that episode stands out date-wise because you think about a bunch of comparisons with AEW, WCW, all this other stuff. So while the April 10th, 2024 edition of Dynamite is pretty synonymous and memorable for that, some say that was a desperate act to try to get ratings. If you want to compare it to something, the April 10th, 2000 edition of Monday Nitro, that was when Russo and Bischoff stripped everybody the belts, and they came out on stage and basically created the new blood against the Millionaires Club, and they joined together at the hip. People remember that as kind of the reboot WCW episode of Nitro. They did pretty good in the ratings for that time period of WCW. So April 10th, interesting days in wrestling history. There's your nerd moment. Continue back on.
The next question he asked was about MJF and Ospreay. We kind of already went over it, basically asking, was this just a way to get a pop or why they gave away a free match? We kind of went over that already, so we'll skip over that one. So the big question, the main event, if you would say, of all questions this week, it's a pretty long question. Regarding Stephanie Vaquer going to WWE and not fulfilling her scheduled dates, shouldn't the fans be angry at CMLL for not making her finish these dates before letting her out of her contract? I understand WWE was not wanting her to do the dates because it risks injuries to a new signing, but CMLL has every right to hold her to her contract, and they chose not to. I want to begin because I have an answer for this. So, in a way, you're right. CMLL could have been like, you're obligated to these dates. We're advertising you for these dates. You must show up to these dates. But, on the other hand, if you have somebody, especially someone like Stephanie Vaquer, who was your women's champion at the time, and she's threatening to just no-show the events if you don't let her out of her contract. What are you going to do? You can't have your champion just not show up. So they stripped her of the belt and they let her go. And the reason she was going to no-show those events was because she showed up in Mexico for a WWE house show this weekend. And if Sean Ross Sapp is to be trusted, which I think he can be, I think you can believe what he's saying. He's right more than he is wrong. CMLL and AEW were angry at the way that she went about pulling her own or getting out of her own contract. She basically gave him an ultimatum, like, you either let me go or I just no-show these events. And the easiest thing to do is just to let her go, let her contract go. And then you now have to plan to figure out how to go on without her. And I think it's funny. Stephanie Vaquer's out of CMLL. And I think the next in line to be the top woman in the CMLL women's division, I don't know if you pay attention a lot to CMLL's women's division, but the next in line, we talked about redemption arcs earlier. What a redemption arc it's going to be for Tessa Blanchard, because she's like number one in line now for CMLL in the women's division. It just puts you as a company in a bad spot because of if here's how I see it. If she wanted out of her contract that bad, I'm not going to keep you in your contract. I'm not, I think we get so accustomed to like AEW and WWE just letting people, like paying people to sit at home. Like, honestly, if you're not happy where you're at and you want to go, I'm going to let you go. I'm going to let you out of your contract. And because a lot of times you don't get guaranteed money if we let you go early. So if you don't want us to pay you, then you can go wherever you want to go, and we can let you out of your contract. I don't like the idea of like trying to say you're breaching a contract or whatever, because a lot of the time the contract isn't necessarily for individual events. It's just saying that you're a wrestler of this promotion, and that's, as long as I understand, CMLL allows their wrestlers to have non-exclusive contracts, with the exception of like if you were to go to WWE. And so to me, this is more of Stephanie Vacher burned bridges that she shouldn't have burned for an opportunity to get to WWE. And if that's the way she wants to go about it, she's free to do so. But she better pray to God that NXT gives her what they promised her, because she ain't going back to CMLL. She ain't going back to New Japan. She's going to have to work the indie scene again if she gets released in the next NXT cuts. And so you better hope that they fulfill their end of the deal, because you burnt a lot of bridges on your way out of those companies. But I will let you have the floor.
Yeah. It's not a good position for, honestly, either party to be in, because you have this top female talent, just not really female, top talent in the world, not just male, female. I would say overall, she's got to be one of the top overall wrestlers, performers in the world, and her performance at Forbidden Door against Mercedes definitely proved that. The issue runs into is, if Stephanie's doing business for herself, and if she's trying to better herself, understandably so. Problem is that it runs into a Tessa Blanchard situation where you're a champion, and now you're kind of not really holding us up, but you're a champion, and you're already kind of proclaiming that you're going to go somewhere else. That definitely doesn't look good for you, doesn't look good for the company. And we're lucky that, especially in Mexico, they can do some things a little bit differently and not as fair as some of these other promotions can, to where they could do a screw job 2.0 and really mess up her overall persona, gimmick, character, individual. At the same token, CMLL does that. They run the risk of really hurting partnerships and collaborations with other companies. So it's a really damn if you do, damn if you don't situation. I honestly think the best thing to do was for CMLL to say, you know what, we're done with it. You get out of here, drop the belt, we'll vacate it. We're not going to do a screw job. We're not going to plaster your name and trash it. We're just going to let you get out of your contract. Good luck, get out of here. And we'll see what happens. I think in some ways, yes, maybe she did burn a bridge with maybe New Japan or CMLL. At the same time, never say never in the wrestling industry. So if she gets released from NXT and WWE, AEW would be happy to scoop her up. And if that's the case, and they're still doing collaborations with Stardom and New Japan and CMLL, every bit of chance she does work back for them anyway. So, and it's really weird how, and you bring up a good point about the whole, they don't contract wrestlers for events, they contract the wrestlers themselves into either non-exclusive or somewhat exclusive contracts, where at the end of the day, they're independent contracts, right? So it's a weird dose when it comes to the whole contract thing with wrestling, because while they may be under a CMLL contract, they could still work for AEW, Stardom, anywhere besides AAA. But they're still an independent contractor.
Right. For the longest of time, Stephanie Vacher wasn't in CMLL. She was wrestling in Japan. at Stardom, at New Japan shows. And so why CMLL so frustrated is because Stephanie Vacher was the number one ticket, seller for that San Jose show, and now she's not showing up, and you run the risk of, like, I know the ticket says card subject to change, but last minute, like, to have to pull your number one draw off the card, the fans can, you can rub the fans the wrong way. You can rub your partners the wrong way. And you brought up a good point with the whole Tessa Blanchard situation with TNA, where she goes to Mexico to live with her, at the time, boyfriend, Daga, and during COVID, and then they have their squabble with her coming back or whatever. They basically said, we're going to let you out of your contract, but you need to return the belt, and she didn't. Like, now you put your brand in a very difficult situation because of a wrestler who wants to go into business for itself or for themselves, or just doesn't feel like you're doing stuff the right way, or wants to prove a point, or whatever it may be. I think they came to the most diplomatic solution was, we'll just let you go. We'll let you out of your contract. We're not going to push any, negative press on you. We're not going to say that you're a bad worker. We'll just let you out of your contract. We'll let you sign. You're free to work immediately with WWE. Because, what they could have done was let her go and put a 90-day on her. It's Mexico, not the United States. And I don't think they have any law. I don't even know if the law that was passed about non-competes in the United States is officially on the books yet. I think it's still being challenged, like the constitutionality of it. So they could have put a 90-day non-compete on her, and they didn't. They're going to let her work immediately. But at the end of the day, it comes back to the fact that WWE is willing to ruin relationships for their talent to get the people that they want to get. And so you got to question the motives of WWE, because this isn't the first time that they've put a wrestler in a very difficult situation. They're pretty well known for doing it. Like with Gunther, they never signed him originally because he said he didn't want to move over to the United States. And then only when they come into NXT UK does he sign with NXT. And then eventually he moves over to the States when he gets promoted to regular NXT and then the main roster. But they weren't going to sign him unless he moved to the States. Same thing with Will Ospreay. They didn't sign him because he wouldn't move to the States. And so WWE expects a lot out of their talent. And that's okay. That's the way they run their business. It's just sometimes their business dealings can be a little shady, and they forced Stephanie Vacher to burn a bridge. I don't want to put the full blame on her, because, like, if WWE comes up to you and offers you a life-changing amount of money and an opportunity to wrestle with the biggest brand in all of the industry, but the caveat is you have to leave your current company immediately, like, I'd probably do the same thing she did, but they put her in a bad spot. And so, and I think they did that with Ethan Page as well, because from what I understood, he was basically, like, let go of his contract a couple of weeks before he showed up in NXT. So, if AEW is upset about losing Stephanie Vacher because it damages their relationship with CMLL, like, I think WWE rubbed some people the wrong way. She rubbed some people the wrong way. I don't know if you can put the blame on CMLL, because there was really nothing they could do.
Yeah, I see it from perspective. Like I try to do with most, if not all, situations. Look at it from both perspectives, put the shoe on both sides of the aisle and both sides of the foot, to kind of see the different arguments with it. And at the end of the day, WWE, I don't want to put a negative connotation to it, but I'm just going to say they really wanted a top talent in the industry, and they got her. Now what they do with her is going to be severely under a microscope because of how the situation was as she joined them. So the ball's in her court. The ball is in WWE's court to see what they make of her. I don't think you can fairly judge her off these first maybe 7 to 10 months. Give her a year. Let's see what happens. I will say that I don't think Lexus is going to be a highly tout free agent here shortly, and whenever he leaves, because that project's been a pretty big failure in my opinion. But Ethan Page has definitely had a lot quicker success than he has, and he's only been there for 3 weeks. But as far as an in-ring talent goes, I just hope that they don't truly mold her into a WWE style. I hope that they kind of do a little bit of the Io Sky, the Kairi Sane, talents like that, where they still have their own, maybe AJ Styles to a certain extent. Let them have their own style. Put the WWE polish on it, but don't truly change up their entire complexity of an in-ring personality. You know, she can work, I'm sure, on the character side of things, the promos, that's all well and good. But as far as the in the ring goes, you know, don't mess that up too much. But yeah, I mean, this next year and a half is going to be really interesting to see how she develops as an in-ring talent. What happened from going on there? Yeah, and CMLL now has to try to find the talent to fill that role. Maybe Tessa Blanchard does it. Maybe it's somebody else. I don't know, but it's going to be interesting to see kind of how this whole thing plays out in the next year or two.
Absolutely. Hey, if y'all want to ask us some questions that we can answer on the podcast, we will answer any and all questions, even stuff that's not wrestling related, like our Kool-Aid flavors. I put them in the Discord chat and under the episode discussion of our section of the Discord. And that's all we got for y'all this week. I hope you enjoyed it. I don't know if we may take a week off next week because we won't be watching Dynamite live. I don't know if there's going to be a whole lot to talk next week. We'll let you know.
I don't know if I have a voice next week. Let's just start there. Depending on how fucked up I get, depending on if I even have a voice next week, we'll see. Discord question: what's your favorite crew? The answer should be all. So that's correct. There's that. There is not one Back Reed song. Kind of. Full Circle album. Let's not talk about that. Anyways,
that's like the Victory Road Sting versus Jeff Hardy match, right?
Son, why do you have to bring that up every damn time? You son of a bitch. Reign of your existence is to bring up that event every single time. Mm-hmm. That hurts. We'll see. We'll see what next week holds. I'll be off Wednesday and Thursday, so I'll be able to catch up on Dynamite Thursday. I may need to get some hot tea or hot coffee, maybe some soothing, relaxing remedies to help my voice. We'll see.
We'll keep you updated on it if any scheduling conflicts may persist after the Creed concert next week. But until we see you again, this has been an episode of the Beyond the Junkyard podcast. We'll see you when we see you. Y'all have a good night.